Hey mama, are you a multi-passionate mom who is juggling all the things, nursing a baby, battling laundry, trying to keep it together and keep a spicy marriage, and feeling like you're feeling all of it? What's up? I'm Ashley Carroll. I'm here to hold your hand through this process because I believe when you're ready to take control of your life, beat the limiting excuses, step into your own power, you can not only survive, but you can thrive. But you're gonna have to show up for yourself. It's time for me to tough love your way through prioritization, taking self-care seriously, getting rid of excuses, reconnecting with your family, kids, and spouse, and quite honestly, learning to love the chaos because the glory is in the journey. It's in the mess. In this podcast, you will find balance for busy mamas, navigating mom guilt, time management strategies, and everything in between with no fluff and lots of fun. Let's go. Hey, what's up, friend? I am super excited that you're listening in today. I hope you had an amazing week so far. Today, I want to talk to you guys about, basically, I've been going ham on this like Valentine's Day idea, but I want to go back and I was just thinking about like how right now for us, especially in an RV, we have no way, or we don't have, I won't say we don't have no way, but it's just a little bit more trickier to have date nights and one-on-one time because, you know, having a babysitter come to your RV isn't really all that normal, right? And for some of you guys, getting a babysitter in general is hard. And it's just a unique situation that we're in where we don't have a lot of alone time. But it had me thinking just about marriage and kids in general and how kind of our marriages, our relationships go on the back burner. If you have kids, you can totally relate to this. You know, like before kids, you're a little worried about what's going to happen, how you're going to navigate that. And then you think it's, you know, a lot of the times we go into it with these rose-colored glasses of like, everybody's going to do everything together and we're going to be partners. And it's so great. And then sleep deprivation hits, and then temper tantrums hit, and then teething hits, and then, you know, all these things, you know, after school activities and sports and yada yada, right? And jobs and all that. And so then our relationships can just take the back burner. And so I wanted to remind you guys today, as we're leading up to Valentine's Day, and in general, this is a general conversation, but because I was going ham on Valentine's Day, I thought, hey, like, why don't I rewind it a bit and let's talk about the foundation of our marriage and how we cannot put our love for our spouse last, that it needs to be first. We need to stop letting it fall to the wayside, because the reality is if we stop talking, if we stop connecting emotionally, if we stopped dating, and if we stop connecting and we start neglecting our relationship, y'all, it's like termites in your house. You can squash one, right? But if you haven't taken care of all the rest or like fumigated the whole thing, like your house is just going to burn down. And like I've said time and time again, whenever people decide to speak up is when the house is on fire. Like when you're infested with termites, when you're infested with cockroaches and you can't kill the dang things, right? You guys know that. Like waiting until the last minute is not a good idea. So why put yourself through the risk of seeing how strong your marriage is by letting it just survive? I don't know about you, but I know that my husband is it for the rest of my life, and I'm so grateful for that. I can't imagine my life with anybody else. But if I'm going to spend the rest of my life with him, and it's going to be like what I hope to be a long time, why would I want to drag out a relationship that is not something that I desire, not something that I look forward to, not something that is thriving, growing, healthy, bearing fruit, filling me up, modeling for my kids what I want marriage to look like? Like, why would I do that to myself? So let's start talking about ways that we can pursue our spouses, because we only have control over what we do, our actions. We cannot control our spouse, and we don't need to worry about what he's doing. We need to worry about what we're doing, right? We need to get right with ourselves first. And obviously have the conversation of like, hey, I want to pursue each other better, and you guys need to sort out what that looks like. But at the end of the day, I cannot force your husband to do the things that you would like him to do, and you cannot force him. You can have the conversations, and then you can do your part, and then if all else fails, you guys need to seek help. But from what we can control is us, right? So how can we pursue our husbands? And I say the first thing that we need to do is to pray for ourselves. We need to pray for ourselves. We need to pray that, we can't do this on our own. We are human. We are barely hanging on by those little pesky hairs that we all like to pretend aren't there on our chinny chin chin, right? Like, we are sleep deprived. Like I said, we have kids everywhere. We have laundry. We have to-do lists at the wazoo. So we need the good Lord Jesus to take the wheel, okay? Lots of times you can find me singing that verse in our house, and it's like my SOS, like, I'm just going to not say anything. Jesus, take the wheel, right? I don't sing it quite as good as Carrie Underwood, but like, we need to pray. We need to be like, Jesus, like, give me the strength to pursue my husband right now. Help me to lay down my selfishness. Help me to lay down my my need or my desire to think about only myself and my needs. Like, help me to see it from my spouse's perspective. Help me to show gratitude. Find out what it is my husband needs. Lord, show me, right? Like, God, Lord, give me the energy. Give me the will, the want to, whatever it is that you need to pray for yourself to be able to pursue your husband as his wife, man. Like, sometimes I think we forget that we're a wife, right? And that, like, we promised to show up a certain way. We made vows, for better or for worse. Like, we forget because we're humans and we're people and life gets busy. And then at the end of the day, it's like, you, me. Well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And I need you and I did this, right? Instead of wife and husband. So I say we got to pray for ourselves first. And then what I've been starting to do is with my morning devotional, it has me have a little prayer section after I've done my devotional, like things that I want to pray about or things that the devotional inspired me to pray about that were in relation to what I just read. But I also haven't started to include a spot for my kids and then a spot for my husband. Like, at the end, I'll say my prayer and then I'll write kids and then I'll say a little prayer for my kids and then for my husband. Because just adding on another place to do a prayer, or if I'm not doing it in that moment, it won't happen. So a lot of the times it's either when I do my devotional or when I'm driving in the car and I'm, pretending to ignore my kids or whatever. Like, maybe we're just not talking or whatever. Or maybe I'm thinking, usually when I'm driving is when I'm thinking about what everybody has going on, what I have to do. And I'll just say a quick little prayer and I'll be like, Lord Jesus, like, I pray for my husband to show up for me the way that you want him to, Lord. And, all these things, whatever it is that's going on in your life and that you need your husband to see, to hear, to know, how, for his growth, you want him to grow and to be thriving. Like, the better that your husband feels, the more that he's thriving, bearing fruit, the better he can show up for you and the better he's going to show up for his family. It is what it is, right? Just like you, if you feel respected, you feel heard, you feel seen, you feel good, you're thriving, like, you're going to just show up better no matter what it is or where you are. You're going to be the best version of yourself, which means you're more motivated, you're more committed, you're happier. And so we should want that for our husbands. So that way, not only can they just experience that and have that joy and those blessings in general, but also so they can show up as amazing husbands and fathers and bosses and employers and, this, that, and the other. So pray for ourselves, pray for him. And let me just encourage you, if you don't have the same beliefs as I do, approach that how you would approach that. Like, what is your version of that? And also, I want to encourage new believers and people who can relate to me that cannot, for the life of them, remember a Bible verse. Like, I can hear it over and over again, and I know what it's about. I cannot tell you where it came from or what exactly it says word for word. I don't know a lot about, who did what and who did this, and I can't tell you whose name got changed twice and is now something different, right? Like, I am not good at that. And I would say that would make me feel like I'm not good. I'm not a good Christian, or I'm not a strong believer, or I don't know it can make you question what you're talking about. But I can tell you that your prayer life, like, that is where I thrive the most. That is where my jam is. I can talk to God like he's my best friend. Like, we are just hanging out in my head together, right? Like, all day I'm like, Lord Jesus. So, hey, God, like, I talk to him like he's any other person in my life, but the most important person in my life. And it's constant and it's ongoing. And that is where I thrive. So whatever that looks like for you, I don't feel like you need to get stuck in this idea of how do I pray to him, or how do I talk to him? Like whatever it is for you. Like you don't need to be, Heavenly Father, I need you to, like it doesn't have to be like that. For me, it looks like me in the middle of a poo, or in the middle of washing dishes, or in the middle of changing a diaper, or maybe it's like a second while I'm driving, and then I get lost in my grocery list, and then I come back to my prayer, and then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, and Lord, like I don't think that he is being particular about how you come to him with the things that you come to him with. So I just wanted to put that out there, like, because sometimes when I hear this stuff, I'm like, oh, well, that's easy for her to say. Like, she's got it down. She has a relationship with the Lord like a rock, but like so untrue. Okay. So wherever you're coming from, whatever that looks like, do it messy. He knows. He knows. Okay. He sees. He knows. He gets it. He's like, yep, she's knee deep in those terrible twos. I know it. You go on, sister. You go on. Love you. Love you. Here, heard you. You're going to need to get that diaper now. Yeah. Okay. Catch you later. Like, he knows. So, anyways, I just wanted to do a little side note of encouragement there, because I used to get really, really, like, hard on myself about what that needed to look like, or what I thought it was supposed to look like. So, pray for ourselves. Pray for our husbands. Also, another thing that I think is an amazing way to pursue your husband is to encourage him and thank him. A lot of the times, like for us, the way that we feel connected and we feel valued and heard and seen is by talking. We want to talk, like talk our feelings. We want to also have quality time. A lot of the times, our husband's love tank, or for the most part, is filled by respect. And, among other things, but respect is a huge one. And just them feeling like they're showing up for you well, that they're showing up for their family well. And so thanking him for the things that he does, like the little things, even the things that you expect him to do, or that he feels like is a no-brainer, right? Like things that you've already established that he's gonna do. But like when you show an ounce of appreciation for it, he's like, oh yeah, like it's not going unforeseen, right? Like it's not one of those things that we just do out of habit that's like, oh gosh, nobody sees me doing this, like it's unappreciated. But I think that thanking him for his leadership and his sacrifices and, the things that he does for the family, whatever that looks like, but then also encouraging him that like he's doing a great job, or that he is a great father, or, you can see where he's showing up in this way, that way, and the other. Like, I think for just like any human being, when somebody points out something that they're working on or doing and somebody else notices it, it makes you feel 10 times better, and it makes you also want to continue doing that thing, because wow, like not only do you do it for self benefits, right? Because you want to, and you want to like work on this area, but then when other people notice it, then you're like, oh yeah, like, like it feels good. Okay, then we got to continue to get to know our spouse, because we're ever changing, right? Like my love language changes on the daily. No, it changes pretty frequently, not on the daily, but it changes pretty often. And so the same with our spouse, like their love languages may not change, and it may not be like a game of Russian roulette like it is for us, but like continue to get to know them and pursue them, and ask them about their work goals, ask them about their health goals, ask them about their dreams of where they want to see themselves and your family in the next 5 years. Ask them about how, if they're still happy working where they're working, if they have a new favorite food, if they stop liking a favorite food. Like some of these questions that I think that we try to overthink it too much about getting to know our spouse. We feel like it has to be really deep and really like profound, but it could be as simple as like, hey, what foods are you really into right now? Like, we all are human. And I think sometimes we get in our heads about how to pursue our spouses like they're this alien that we don't know how to talk to, or that because we're somehow husband and wife, we can no longer treat them as if we were dating, which is kind of odd if you think about it. But also, like, what are the questions and things you would you would ask your spouse when they were your boyfriend, right? Or like if you guys were dating, what are the things that you would want to know? Like, how's your walk with God? What are you doing? What do you like to do with your spare time? I think that we can ask those questions safely. And even if it comes out silly or sounds funny, we can laugh about it. And who cares, right? Like, it's your relationship, nobody else's. And if you're not, like, if you're worried about what other people think, the only people that are going to suffer is you. Okay, this one is a doozy, but I know that the husbands will really appreciate it. And it's something that I've had to work on myself. Like, I'll admit it. It's one of my weaknesses, one of the places where I mentally have a roadblock, and it is initiating things in the bedroom. I think that our husbands, or at least a lot of the times, right? Some of you guys, it's going to be flip-flopped and you do the initiating and, but for some women who can relate to me, and it's they do the initiating and you do the rejecting, right? Like, it can be hard because, like I said, at the end of the day, we have different ways and different ideas of how to refuel, decompress, and connect. And so for me, like, I need to say, hey, I need to connect with you before we can intimately connect. But for him, connecting is through intimately connecting. So you just have to get on that same page. And also we got to step out of our comfort zones. This is a whole nother episode probably about like pursuing our spouses because they want to be pursued just like we do, except somehow we get in this rut of not realizing how special the pursuit of them is towards us, and we take it for granted, and we are quick to reject it because we're tired, it's late, we don't feel like it, we don't feel sexy, like this, that, and the other, right? So that's a whole other episode. But so pursuing them is, again, reciprocating that I love you, I'm attracted to you, I want you, I desire you, right? Like, so we just have to get out of our minds about it, whatever that looks like. And a lot of the times it's not even a big deal. Like, sometimes we think it has to be like this. You dress in lingerie and you like seduce them. A lot of the times it's sitting in bed, rolling over, kissing them, putting your hand on the shoulder, and letting them know like you're here for it, right? Like, it can be so simple of like tapping them on the shoulder, kissing them passionately, and like they're going to take the rest into their hands, and they still think that they still consider that as you pursuing them. And so, like, it's just so funny how we just let our minds block that for us and we let it hold us back, and just so silly. So as always, I will plug Jana Denton House whenever we talk about intimacy, because she is the master at helping women to want it again, to feel like they aren't the only ones who don't ever feel turned on. They say, you say you have low libido, you don't want it, you don't desire it, it's not fun for you anymore, you don't get anything out of it. Like, she is your girl because she's been there. Her and her husband have gone through it. They've gone through a pornography addiction. If you haven't listened to her episode previously on the podcast, so you can go over to see her, and then always let her know that you came from the So She Grows podcast for a discount for her services on whatever it is that you are looking to. But I highly, highly recommend her for anything intimacy in your marital life. And you can find her at janadentonhouse.com. That's HOWES. JANNA. Should I just spell her whole name, guys? Jana Denton House. So HOWES.com. Okay, and then lastly, what I feel like we need to do to pursue our husbands is to greet them happily. Nothing is worse when I come home and I'm either A, already in a bad mood, or B, in a good mood, and I'm met with grumpiness, disdain, like, just, it sets the mood for the rest of the evening. It sets the mood for how I approach that person, or specifically my spouse, or the situation, right? Because I'm like, how I'm greeted is like already like, okay, what happened? Who did what? Why do, like, I'm already ready to like not be there for my spouse, but to just go into action mom mode. It just sets your mood up, right? Because you're just like, okay, that's how it's gonna be. All right, I can match you, right? Because we respond to the response of others. So, y'all, I'm laughing at this whole thing because I struggle with all these things. Like, I hope you know that I'm just not, all these episodes, I'm not just pulling this out of my butt like, hey, I do this and look at how great I am. No, these episodes come from me falling short and being like, oh, I should work on this. And probably since I'm struggling with this, maybe other people can relate to this. Or maybe if you don't, then like, can you send your girl some DMs and give me your tips? Because that's where I'm at. I'm human. So I think that is like the most easiest thing that we can do, is to welcome them home into a good environment. Like, you can still be like, hey babe, I appreciate you. Like, you can still show appreciation and show up for your spouse even when things are rough. Like, that is probably where I struggle something that I want to work on moving forward is like right now I'm in the thick of toddlerhood and barely being able to get a podcast episode out because he's destroying everything. Like I can sit down for a second, and because our house isn't a house and we don't have a play area and there's not designated toys out for him right now because we just don't have the space, and everything is kind of out in boxes and in store and in like drawers and stuff, he can get into everything. And so by the end of the day, I'm just like, you're home, here's a kid, see you later. And so what I need to work on is more like, hey, I'm grateful for your presence, I'm thankful you're home, but I need your help. Like, so I think that you can feel what you feel. I'm not saying put on this like 50s diner gown, wear the apron and be like, here honey, here's your pot roast, how's your day, let me rub your feet, right? Like, not like that. I think that we can be in our feels, we can appreciate and then be like, hey, but I need your help at the same time. Like, be realistic, but also let them know that you're happy to see them, you're grateful for their presence, and you want them to feel like this is, if the world outside is stressful, the job outside is stressful, everywhere is, it is what it is, right? But the one place that they can rely on feeling safe, feeling comfort, feeling like this is the place that they want to be more than any place other than in the world, right? Like you don't want them to run to the bar for comfort. You don't want them to run to somebody else's house. You know what I'm saying? You don't want them to find other places because home life stinks and it's unwelcoming and it's negative and it's just adding more to all the things that they're already worried about or they're feeling. Like I want my place of home to be a place of refuge, a place of comfort, a place of peace, love, connection, like me, right? Like I want them to be like, that's where my wife is. Like I want to be there. So just something to think about. Those are the things. Again, you guys, do not take this episode into like, well, all she talks about is how I should treat my husband. And, you know, what about him? He doesn't do anything for me, right? I can't control your man. I cannot control him. I hope, like, tell him to listen to this podcast. That's what you can do, right? Like, all we can do is example, help to do our part, show up for them 100% and hope that they do the same. Obviously, encourage them to seek friendships and circles and mentorships and things that will help grow them, but doing things together that help you guys grow each other as a couple. Finding a third party assistance like therapy and stuff will also be beneficial. But at the end of the day, like no matter what, we can't control how somebody shows up to anything. We can only control how we show up, and then hope that they either one, fall in suit because they see that you're putting in the work, or two, we get the help that we need that's necessary. So I think the key to everything is not waiting until the house is on fire, but to start paying attention to those little flicks of spark, like, right, like the circuit shorting, and you can see the warning signs, right? You need to get it fixed. You need to get it looked at. That's what you don't need to ignore. And then if you need to bring in the firefighters, whatever, I don't know, this analogy took a wrong turn, but you know what I'm saying. So that is today's episode. I hope that you continue to pursue each other and see the fruits of that pursuit. And y'all, sometimes it just takes work. It takes months. It takes cultivating, because things just don't change overnight. So I want to give you that encouragement and to keep going. If you feel like you know a mom friend, as always, who can benefit from one of these episodes that you've heard on the podcast, make sure you share this with her, because it feels so hard to go through these things alone or to feel like you're the only one. So invite them in to join this messy motherhood journey that we are all a part of, and hopefully they'll find that bit of encouragement, empowerment, inspiration that they were looking for. So I'm so grateful for you guys listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe, send this to a friend, and I will catch you guys next time.